Hello, Polny. Good to see you, my friend. It's been a while since we've talked.
Absolutely. What a pleasure to see you again, Dick. Yes. I think I first met you maybe 2 years, maybe 2.5, 3 years ago, actually, up in Vegas, and haven't seen you since. And all I know about you is you do some incredible work, and you're a very nice man. So,
thank you for the compliment. I feel the same way about you. You're an old school American, like friendly, honest, look you in the eye, say what you mean. I see young people today and they just don't have the same character that we do. I hate to say that. I need to begin this conversation by stating that today, when we're recording this, it is mid-morning Hawaii time, early afternoon West Coast time on Thursday, the 13th of July, because I'll probably put this out a little bit later and you might put it out a couple days later. And things are really volatile today. Today on Thursday, the 13th, silver's up, oil's up, the dollar's way down. The XRP ruling came out. So there's a lot going on, but we're going to talk more big picture things. When you and I met in Las Vegas at the Litecoin conference, that was October of 2019. No one had ever heard of coronavirus or COVID. It was coming out. And I didn't really make it into the Litecoin conference that day because you and I had such an interesting conversation, both on camera and off camera at the conference. At that point, you were warning of some dire things over the horizon. Take me back to what you were saying then in October, just prior to COVID, of big events about to happen, and then what happened. How was your call correct on that?
Yeah, what I was looking at specifically was, so those who know my work, specifically, I analyze time. So it's not so much events, because I don't know an event that would happen. That's actually why it's going to be very interesting to speak with you, because you actually get visual pictures of things that are to come and you draw them out. And so they're called targets. And and a target is specifically an event. On my end, I do time calculations, and specifically I use the Bible. And so it doesn't matter if you use whatever version of the Bible as an example. The point is that whether it's this version, that version, the timelines, like when it says in the Bible, Israel was in bondage to Israel was in bondage to Egypt for 400 years. It doesn't matter what version of the Bible you read, 400 years is 400 years. And so the point I was trying to make when I was meeting you and speaking with you was, as the year 2020 was about to begin, so that was in October, we met in 2019. A month later, was the completion of a 400-year cycle, because it was in November that the Mayflower landed in 17, so it was 400 years earlier, basically, to the exact moment. So all I knew is that Israel was in bondage for 400 years, and the Mayflower landed 400 years ago. So all I knew was that starting January onwards, something massively different is about to come upon our Earth. And lo and behold, January rolls along and the first diagnosed case of COVID came out, and that was on January 12th of 2020. But it was a month earlier in December on Hanukkah, which is when it actually came out. Came out of China lab in China. So all of these things are happening. I look at them from a biblical perspective, and what I'm saying by that is, in the Bible, it says that which has been will be again, meaning the time windows are the same, but the characters are different. So new people, new everything, but time windows are of old are mirroring or foreshadowing or echoing time windows of old. And so that's the point. So when we were talking, I think that was kind of the gist of our conversation, was how 2020 was supposed to be something of a massive shift in our world, because it correlated with what happened at 400 years of Israel and Egypt.
And it certainly was a massive shift. And it's very difficult to get exact events, but man, you were correct on that. you and I both are in the same business. Your website is called Gold Forecast 2020.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
It's about Gold 2020 forecast.
Gold 2020 forecast, and we'll put that up. So you're forecasting events, and you're coming at it from a biblical perspective. And you like gold, you like cryptocurrencies. We've just rebranded crypto viewing to futureforecastinggroup.com. So we both use forecast. So we're both in the forecasting business, and we're both seeing similar things happening. We're at an unraveling, we're at a change of civilizations. What's coming next in your view, Bo?
Well, I got some more downloads. I get, like, when I sleep at night, I hear things and I get like words and things. So I've got a bunch more information I can give you, and I'm really excited to talk with you because you see, biblically, when you go back and you study the Bible, there's 2,500 years ago. So this is why these things are so powerful from a biblical perspective, because there's no entity in the world that can predict 2,500 years, unless it is some kind of a higher being. In this case, it's God, right? Because so Nebuchadnezzar has a dream, two dreams, twice over, and then he basically says, "I'm going to kill all of my soothsayers, my prophets, my wise men, everybody, because what's the point of having you if you can't help me out?" Okay, and so Daniel ends up praying that night, and he comes forward that morning and reveals the next 2,500 years to Nebuchadnezzar. And this ties in with you, Dick. The reason you're able to do things and see the future is because it's already written. See, I want to repeat that. The future is written. That's why you can see into the future. And I'll let you go from here in a second. So that dream, basically, think about this. It described from when Babylon was existing. So that was Nebuchadnezzar. Then Babylon fell, and then Persia came to power, and then Greece came to power, and then Rome came to power, and then the papacy came to power, and then the United States came to power. And all of this was prophesied 2,500 years ago. So no one can tell me that the future isn't written, because it is. And that's why when you get your marks to go look forward, you can see forward because it's there. It's just that we don't see it. And I look at it from a charting standpoint. I knew that this week into next week, crypto, gold and silver are going to explode vertical. Why? Because the charts that I look at already had the candlesticks. You see, if you know the right chart pattern, you can overlay it on present day, and you look forwards, and it shows you there's big candlesticks coming on precious metals, gold and silver, forwards. But the events haven't transpired, so and the time hasn't happened yet, so the candlesticks haven't exploded vertical. Get it? But yesterday we saw silver shoot up 95 cents. Today, last I checked, is up 65 cents, right? And so silver is beginning to explode vertical. Why? Because it's supposed to. The candlesticks, those who have my private analysis, already showed it. I was writing about this in June, and also, just a perfect example, the candlesticks that I was looking at that predicted what's happening here in July. In October, I said the stock Bitcoin is going to crash on approximately, I think it had the 8th or 9th of November. Why? I don't know why, but the charts had a collapse on about the 8th or 9th of November, a crash straight down on Bitcoin, a bottom, and then a reversal up vertical, only to happen perfectly, and only to then find out the event, which was already written, but I didn't know, was FTX. You see, so what you do, as much as you may not believe or know, it's biblical, because you're seeing the future that's written. And so you get markers to go chase and look forwards, only to find out that so you're getting a picture of an event. And we're going to talk about those, because you sent me a few last night, whatever you want to talk about. Yeah. But the pictures that the events, and just like you got, I think 2 or 3 years ago, you got a picture of people in Congress or in the White House or wherever throwing up because something happened that changed the course of everything, right? Yeah. And so those events we're going to talk about in this interview because they're imminent. That's about to go down. And so that's I think a good introduction. But the reason you're able to do what you do is because it's already there. Yeah. And you're just grabbing hold of it and drawing a picture of it.
And where we're in agreement on this is it's my understanding from people that I've talked to that history repeats itself, that civilizations run a certain course and have a certain time frame. Fiat currencies certainly run a course and have a certain time frame. So this was written in Revelation.
Yeah, it's actually Ecclesiastes states, that which has been will be again. There is nothing new under the sun. You see, so the point of the matter is at some point, God lets everybody, and it is God, okay? It is an actual physical being. God's in control of the world. That's why you're able to do what you do, because he wrote the future and you're grabbing pictures of it. Yeah. He lets you see forward. But the point is, it's Ecclesiastes, that which has been will be again. So these time windows, so the 400 years, that's why something massively changed starting January of 2020, period. That's why my website was called Goal 2020, because I knew that the world was going to change forever starting 2020. And actually what it ended up being is the beginning of the end. So we're heading into some horrible times. Yeah. And we're heading into some awesome times. Yeah. See, so it's a double-edged sword. It depends on what you've been doing for the past 3.5 years, specifically.
It's interesting. It's interesting that your site is called Gold 2020 Forecast, and our analyst has bullshift 2020 because he said 2020 was going to be the start of an incredible bull run in commodities, gold and silver. So both you and he knew that 2020 would be a pivotal year. Can you believe? I mean, when we talked at the Litecoin conference in 2019, if we would have told you what we'd be facing today, like with the transgender stuff, what's accepted and what you're allowed to say, it's like unbelievable. It's just, I look at the news and I'm just flabbergasted.
Well, can I give you a scripture on that one? Pride and arrogance cometh before the fall. Yeah. You see, so, and we just passed June, that was Pride Month, okay? So they're finished. These people are done. So we're about to step on. So I want to share this with you, and I don't think you've ever seen this. Okay. But this is a slide that I've had for a long time, and I want to have you see, because God shows me timing, and so I want to have you understand, or so like maybe have you and your viewers kind of get a grasp of timing, looking forward, because that's what you do. You look forward, and you draw pictures. I calculate forward. So you're getting pictures forward. I calculate forward. And so I look at key events and then I calculate. And so in June 30th of 2016, it's written in the Bible. It basically talks specifically in Daniel 12, verse 7. It says, it will be, and this is a scripture right here. It will be. So it will be for a time, times and a half a time. Well, a time is 360 days, which is a year. Another 2 years, another half a year. So basically it will be, so it could be good or it could be bad, but it is something. And so the something that it was evil, okay? It's pretty obvious what's going on. So the evil will be for 3.5 years. And so what does that mean? Well, let's look at that time point, because that's actually Daniel 12, verse 7. So let's look at that. Well, it will, so 3.5 years go by, and that takes us into December 12th of 2019. This is a month before we were speaking. We were speaking in November, okay? And specifically—
End of October, end of October.
End of October, right. So then on December 12th, so we got June 30th, you got Obama basically allowing transgenders into the military. 1,260 days later, 3.5 years later to the exact day, December 12th, a cluster of patients in Wuhan began to experience symptoms. 30 days later, these are biblical timings. Okay, this is exactly out of the Bible, exactly, not even off by a day. January 12th of 2020, and the links are all here, but I want to verify. On January 12th, you had the first confirmed case of COVID outside of China, which made it a pandemic. 1,260 days, so now we're running the cycle again. 1,260 days, 3.5 years to the exact day, June 25. So June 25 just passed. That week of June 25, that was a summer solstice on the 21st. So God works in times and seasons. Well, what happened? On the 22nd, the first day of summer. This is so important because on the first day of summer, guess what happened? They've forever been trying to link the current jackal in the office, 46, to his son, and they've never been able to do it until the text came out. And what did it say? On the text on the 22nd of June, I am sitting here waiting for a call with my father. See, so that linked. So so January of 2020 would be equivalent to June of 2023 right now, okay? And so in January, okay, well, COVID's, they're kind of talking about it, but it's not that big of a deal until what? 2 months later, March, the US stock market collapses 38%. Another month later, oil collapses by, it goes to negative $38 a barrel.
Yeah, I remember that day.
So, but the marker was January, right? Yeah. And so we're seeing these magical, biblical things, massive, important things, and so the Biden thing with the texts on the summer solstice was epic. But we don't see it just yet. But just yesterday, on the 12th, you got Matt Gaetz literally calling out Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, saying, "Are you protecting the Biden family?" So this was just yesterday. You have on the 30th. So see, the evil, they're losing their strength now. If you look at this as a massive ship, the steering wheel just turned. And so so everything's now turning. And so on June 30th, the Supreme Court of the United States ended affirmative action for higher education. That's a massive blow to evil. And then you got, the gay couple trying to get this family, these people to make a wedding cake with two gay people on. And so they supported the First Amendment, another massive blow to this evil regime, this evil empire. And then on the 4th of July, this is going to be a huge one, right? The Sound of Freedom comes out. The Sound of Freedom is a massive thing because once you've seen this video, people are walking out of there crying, okay? You can't unsee the evil that's going on in the world. And then 4 days later, you got the Rothschild. Give me a break. The Rothschild on July 8th is on CNN saying, oh, the whole movie is a joke. It's stupid. You don't need to go see it, right? Well, why would the Rothschilds be saying that? Think about it. Why would the Rothschilds be saying that? Because they're the root of all evil, right? What did his grandfather say in the 1800s? Allow me to control the money supply, and I could care less who writes its laws.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You see, so it's always been about the money. The money is how they built this evil regime. So in the Bible, it talks about what's called Mystery Babylon. So it's an evil regime, evil empire. It started out as a good thing or as an area of the United States, but as of now, it's a worldwide syndicate. The corruption on this world, if you want to just remove the word evil and just say corruption, the corruption across this world is worldwide, okay? It's not an area of anything, it's worldwide corruption, right? And so the corruption was created how? With the money. So it's called in the Bible, it's Mystery Babylon, only exists because they have the ability to create money from nothing. They have convinced the world their money has value, and this unlimited money supply that they can create out of nothing has allowed them to buy anything and everyone, to hide secrets and create wars. And so, you do crypto viewing. Why? Because cryptos are the financial means to the future, because when the US dollar, their financial system, Babylon's financial system, loses its value as a world reserve currency, when the bank runs begin and the people come to realize that the amount of paper, the amount of physical paper in the banks is not even close to the amount of digits that have been created.
It's been
that's
not even a fraction.
Expose them. Not even a fraction, right? Not even. So I'm going to explain the math to you. Maybe you can continue from here. But think about this, right? When Nixon took us off the gold standard, gold had some small correlation to the U.S. dollar. So there was a connection there. So for every time you made $1 million,
there was like 10%, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to have some relationship. When Nixon took us off the gold standard, understand that when Nixon, before that happened, a home value of a house was maybe $30,000 to $50,000. The amount of money supply was under $1 trillion. So I believe there's maybe $500 million in the 70s. Total, okay? Yeah. And then they took us off the gold standard. Then they started creating trillions, and now we're in the quadrillions. I want to explain the math. 1,000 million is a billion. 1,000 billion is a trillion. And 1,000 trillion is a quadrillion. And we are in the quadrillions. You'd have to cut down every single tree in the world to make up for the money digits that are created. And so that's why you do crypto viewing, because you know when the financial system blows up, when the evil is exposed, or the financial dealings and how they've done it is exposed, they're going to lose all their power and everything blows up in their face. And that vision that you drew, and maybe you can expand on that, because you drew a vision a long time ago of people in Congress walking out, throwing up, being sick. I don't know all the details of it.
That was the death of the dollar was the target.
Something happened, right? Something happened that caused this, right? But understand, these people will never give up. This is what you have to kind of grasp. They built this evil, this control system, if you want to call it control system, across the globe with money. So they will fight tooth and nail to never let the money lose its value. Get it?
So, yeah. Okay. I'm totally double blind to this target. I get there. I have no idea what it is, what I'm supposed to be seeing. I go, well, I'm in an urban place. There's buildings, there's cities. There seems to be a fire. There's, public transportation. People are on the streets. It's civil unrest. Then I go to people are crashing a gate. They breached it. They're pushing. They're breaking in. Soldiers with weapons, but they seem disorganized, like they don't know what they're doing. They're not cohesive. They're in a near panic. Surging mass of people. I get the idea of bank runs. These are because the banks are closed. They're being tear gassed. They're booing. They're shouting. There's unrest. They're coming up over barricades. They're unhappy. Double blind work. I see a large roadway, a main thoroughfare. I don't spell well in that, because you get in an altered state, but it seems to be blocked. Like the streets are littered with dumpsters and cars that don't run, and homeless encampments, and fires. So basically, bad situation. And the target was what happens when the dollar loses dominance. Do you expect that to happen?
Yes, I agree with everything that you're seeing, because you see, what I'm seeing is from a biblical. So let's talk about this from a biblical perspective. Okay, there's a thing called a baptism, and a baptism is the death to life. So what happens is one dies and a new is born. Mm-hmm. So to understand that, the United States that you and I grew up in, okay, it's not the United States of 1776. It's fully captured, fully corrupt, fully controlled. Yeah. It's controlled by a money system, by a global elite of a Federal Reserve System, which isn't federal, which isn't the reserve. It's a bunch of bankers, basically maybe 12 or 13 families, whatever it is, one of which is the Rothschilds. All of this is a controlled mechanism. So what has to happen is the death of it. What comes with the death of it is the death of the money. Yeah. And so the money has to die, and people are going to oh, that's a horrible thing. Yes and no. Yes, in that the money is how they control you. The money is how they, better word, enslaved you. They've created what's called a mortgage. Mortuary, death grip.
Is death. Yeah.
Yes.
The death contract.
30-year death contract, make another 40-year death contracts. You buy a car on a 5-year death contract, some is 7-year death contract. They create money out of thin air and give you a credit card, right? So it's a bookkeeping entry. They never lent you anything, right? And so the whole system is based on a fraud. And so the fraud must die. But the ones that are grabbing onto this world so tightly and love it so much, those are the ones that are going to be freaking out and running to the bank and trying to grab their money out of the bank. Whereas Dick and all his subscribers, what have they done? They're holding cryptocurrencies as they're watching them explode vertical in price because the US dollar just collapsed, and they're sitting at home in peace with their family. And also Dick's maybe viewers who listen to him have bought precious metals, gold and silver, are sitting peacefully at home, have some water, some extra food. So they're sitting peacefully at home while everybody's running to the bank, trying to get the money out of the bank, which they can't get out of the bank because after the first 2 or 3 people, the bank is empty of all the paper. There's only digits left in the bank, but you can't take home digits. You see, so that's called the bank run, when you find out Caesar's got no clothes. And so all of this is going to mount to what you just described is the death of the United States. But then you're going to have the rebirth of it.
The phoenix will rise from the ashes.
Yes, if you want to call it the phoenix, and that will be the rebirth of the United States. That'll be the new United States founded under God. Basically, it's going to be a double-edged sword. So the United States will end up being one of the greatest places to live in the world. You
think so?
Yes, because once God strikes them, they're never going to come back to the United States, ever. Because no different than what happened. When the Red Sea closed, Pharaoh was dead. And Egypt has never been a superpower, ever since the Red Sea miracle. And the present day Egyptians are China. So China's about to lose its power or its status, and all it ties in directly what they did in 2020 with Corona. And they're going to lose all of their strength, all of their power. And it ties in actually very interestingly because 2 years ago, it takes 2 years. It was 2 years from when Roe v. Wade, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. 2 years later, Roe v. Wade's overturned. It was 2 years when the Evergrande bonds collapsed in China in September of 2021, a year later. Okay, and so 2 years is this September.
We get no news about what's really happening in China. We're clueless.
And again, see, but even so, like here's the better part. Even if you did get news, you wouldn't get the real news. What's the real news? What you drew and you just showed the viewers. You see, That's the real news because you got a glimpse into the future and you drew it. You drew out a picture of the future is what you did. And how did you do that? Because the future's there. It just hasn't happened yet. I know it's a crazy thing to comprehend, but why has your subscription base grown over the past few years? Why? Because people see things you're saying isn't crazy. It's real because there is a future and it's already written. We're just watching things unfold in front of us. And so as crazy as things are in front of us right now, it's going to get wild. Because that's the death of the United States is coming, okay? But this is the time window I want to show you. So we're in this summer season right now. It's called the Mediator. And so it's like comparable to a massive ship that just turned the wheel. And it's not going in the opposite direction until at least August or September. And so June 25 is when the text came out of linking Biden to his son, and the deals. And so this is a biblical timing. There's a 45-day window, which takes us into August 9th. So I believe your picture, if I want to, I'm going to make a guess here, but I think it might be accurate. Your picture that you drew of the death of the dollar, of people throwing up because of the dollar death, is going to be in this time window between the 25th of June and August 9th.
Looking at that chart, Bo, it's really interesting with hindsight because go back to October 2019 when I met you in Las Vegas and your predictions and our predictions, and then look at what has happened in that 3.5 year period that you have on your chart right there. We wouldn't have believed that in October of we were there at the Litecoin conference having a nice time. The world was great. If the evil that we've seen in those 3 years, it's come at us so fast, so furious, one hit after another, that we've become almost inoculated to it. I mean, we're numb to it, I guess is the word I want. And it's interesting that you have that yellow arrow right now. And for some reason, just out of the blue, I thought, I need to interview Bo Polny. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years. And I called you, and we're right in that window on your chart. Interesting.
Right. It's interesting. And I'm trying to show you that, evil is in the details, but so is God. You see, there is the only reason that you are able to have your business of what you do, because there is a future and you can draw it. See, people need to grasp that. Daniel prophesied the next 2,500 years. And it's all happened, okay? And so what you're seeing is, that vision of the death of the dollar, it's actually right here, and this is in Daniel's prophecy of 2,500 years ago. Daniel actually prophesied about that, and it's right here. This is a prophecy. So basically, all the kingdoms have existed to date, everything, except the last beast, the stone. And this is the stone. This is the prophecy right here. While you were watching, so we get to watch this, a stone carved out by no human hand struck the statue at its feet of iron and clay and smashed it. This is the fall of Babylon, Mystery Babylon. This is the fall of the evil regime. This is their destruction. This is your picture that you drew whatever years ago of the death of the dollar. This is it. This is the fall of Babylon. And it correlates directly also with a scripture of Revelation 13. And it talks about the mortal wound. And it talks about and says, and as I was watching, another beast rose out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all the authority of this first beast. So what is the first beast? It's Mystery Babylon. It's these evil people that control the globe with the money system. So what does it say? It exercised all the authority of the first beast, which is the harlot, Mystery Babylon, and it made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast whose mortal wound is healed. You see, so this system is going to come down, but then it's going to rise again in the future. In the future, because you can't stop these things that are written. And later on, you're going to be drawing pictures of these things that are coming in the future. This is like 10 years out yet of things that are coming. Mm-hmm. So this evil system comes back because it's going to. But right now, you're asking, where are we right now? This is probably the most interesting slide that I just did yesterday. And this is a download I received yesterday morning at about 3 a.m. And so I get a picture and I draw it out or take screenshots, or I things like Google, I take screenshots, then I make a slide of it the next morning.
Do you make these graphics yourself? These are really good.
Yeah. So I made this just yesterday, and I want to show you this because this is really crazy, awesome. So Roe v. Wade, because this is all about an evil regime. That think about when that the movie and the children. What are they doing? That there's the stuff with the children. It's deeper than just kidnapping them. It's about the blood.
I haven't seen that. Yeah. I know what you're saying.
But without seeing the movie,
I haven't seen that movie yet. Have you seen it?
No, I have not seen it yet, but regardless, the people you've talked to, that all this evil stuff is always about, it's about the blood of the children. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, so that's what it always goes to, like, the trafficking and everything else, but ultimately it's about their blood. And so this is interesting because Roe v. Wade becomes law in 1973, January. Okay, well, Dick, if you run 50 years forward, it was January 20th of 73. Well, 50 years to the exact day is this past January. So we're at 50 years. I'll explain why 50 years is important in a minute, okay? And then there's a thing in the Bible, it's called Shemitah. It means every 7 years that God's going to intervene and do something every 7 years. Okay, so 1973, Roe v. Wade becomes law. So 1980, you have the hard recession begins. 7 years later, stock market crash. 7 years later, that was 87. 7 years later, 94, the bond market crashes. 7 years later, stock market crashes. Why? Because of 9/11. And all these things happened on Rule 29. And then 7 years later, the stock market crash and the housing crash. 7 years later, you got the Black Monday crash of August 24th. 7 years later was last year. Nothing happened. But did it? Or was it supposed to? Nothing was supposed. It was a 49th year, but something crazy important happened. Roe v. Wade was overturned last year. And what does it say? By overturning, see, if the Creator creates humanity, and the humanity founds a nation under God, all men are created equal, and that nation decides to kill the Creator's creation, I'd say that would piss off the Creator, wouldn't you? Like, that would be one way of getting the Creator upset at you, okay? And so 50 years go by, and we overturn it. Now, what does it say? If you do something good, God's going to show you grace. Well, it's written in Jonah 3, verse 10, it says, when God saw that what they did, and they turned from their wicked ways, God relented and did not bring destruction upon them. And so last year, God did not bring destruction because we overturned Roe v. Wade. But these people are now finished because there's a thing called a super Shemitah or a Jubilee. A Jubilee is a super Shemitah, and it's 7 times 7 is 49, which leads into 50. And the 50th year, forget about it, because the 50 year is very clear. It's a return of the land. So which means that bondage is broken. And so what that means is, whatever happens, what we're talking about right here in the summer of the mediator, so something's going to happen. I believe, biblically, what's a biblical event? Like what you saw, what you drew out of everybody throwing up and getting sick, because something massive, something happened in a single day that changed the course of history for that event to manifest that you drew out. Something crazy must have happened, right? And so a biblical event is something that happens that you can't explain. And so that biblical event is the first strike, the first event is supposed to happen here, potentially anytime into August 9th, starting the 25th. So will it happen? I don't know, but something potentially supposed to happen, which then leads us into September 15th, because September 15th is the last day of the 50th year. So the 50th year, it's a biblical year. The Jubilee started on September 25 of last year, and it ends this September 15th.
So it's your prediction that something big will happen around September 15th that will probably be bad, but will ultimately lead to a renewal and a rebuilding.
Absolutely, yes. And so another way to look at it is the evil that's on this earth loses complete control into the 15th. Biblically, there's what's called the 10 days of awe, which then leads us into which is what's called Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day of the year, not of God, for God, and that's the day you sound the trumpet. So by the 25th of September, there will have been a second strike, but this strike will be a strike like no other, and evil's finished. And these people are fleeing the United States as fast as they can. Many are dead, but their game is over. And now you've got the military in there basically doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then shortly thereafter, probably have the return of 45 to come back and rebuild, because 45 is not allowed to be there until the dollar crashes, because his job is to come back and rebuild. So then go from here, but 2 strikes. One is this summer into summer, potentially, 9th-ish or whatever.
August, yeah.
Summer, okay. I'm sorry, August, yeah. Summer, we're supposed, now biblically, there's what's called the angel of death. The angel of death showed up to Pharaoh because Pharaoh refused to let Israel go. So the last thing God did is he sends the angel of death in, and he literally destroyed. And this was a miracle. You couldn't explain it because it was the firstborn of every family, including the animals, and you couldn't deny it was an act of God, because how does that happen? It was precision deaths. It wasn't random. And not one person in Israel passed away. And interestingly enough, right, Exodus 12 states it starts on the 14th day, which is tomorrow. It goes from the 14th day into the 21st next week, next Friday. So potentially this time window, if it's, is it going to happen tomorrow? Something happened? I don't know. I'm just telling you, it's interesting that when you read Exodus 12, it says on the 14th day into the 21st day is when this event all goes down. And it's interesting also, which I think is you'll find fascinating. Check this out. The Hollywood sign was dedicated exactly 100 years to today. The star, the Hollywood star, the stars, you walk on the street, all the stars.
Yeah.
Google Sigil, S-I-G-I-L of Baphomet. The star is the Sigil of Baphomet. It's the official insignia of the Church of Satan. Blood red carpets.
Yeah.
Hollywood and red carpets. See,
Jordan Maxwell was all over that, the meaning of Hollywood. Yeah.
So all of this stuff is evil, and you see it in the details, both good and evil. See, so I'm just trying to illustrate how this is such an important time point in the world. So you've got, the Hollywood insignia in July of 1923, 50 years forward, 1973, abortion becomes law. And also, what also is important about July right now, Dick? The petrodollar agreement was enacted in July of 1973. Now, it's 50 years.
Yeah.
And why is 50 years again so important? Because when you read Leviticus, it's right here. And you shall consecrate the 50th, it says, and you shall cause a trumpet in the land to sound on, which be Yom Kippur, which is 25th of September, and you shall consecrate the 50th year, which we're in right now, and proclaim, this is also important, liberty throughout the land and to all of its inhabitants. So from a biblical perspective, the pictures that you've drawn out are all pointing to pictures that are about to happen. So the chaos and the bank runs are because the dollar crashed. Why? These people are never going to give up the game.
They'll take it down before they'll give it up.
Right. So this is a clash of the titans. This is a fight to the death. This is a clash of literally good versus evil, God versus Satan. This is a clash of the titans. This is where something biblical happens, but also you have to now think of what happened at the Red Sea. This is really important. The entire globe that we know, the financial system did it all, but they could now control Hollywood, the media, school systems, like we talk about what we're doing with the kids, right? And the educators, right? The church, anywhere you look, everything's corrupted because of the money system. So the money system has corrupted everything in our world. So for something to change, the money system has to change, because then, only then, will the truths come out that were done in darkness.
So what are you doing to prepare? Some gold and silver, some cryptos, food, get out of debt. Do you fear what's coming? Do you embrace it? How are you preparing?
I'm fully embracing it. Why? Because you and I, your platform, you talk about cryptocurrencies. You look at them into the future. What have you seen? Answer this first, please. What have you seen with cryptocurrencies? Did you see them going down, or you see them going up?
We see them going up. Edward Reardon, we had a published prediction. He said within about a month, XRP is going to have a record day. Today, as we record this, XRP is up like 75%. Our analyst, Marty Hibbs, Sunday, XRP was like 45, 46. He said, It's going to 85.
Right.
And
It's
today,
85 today. I saw it at 85. I saw it at 80 just before we go online this month. So 85. And I've got $7 as a target for XRP. Okay. And that's just a warm up for things that are coming, right? So XRP, but again, XRP is still, this is the problem. It's a banker's coin.
It's a banker's coin. Yeah.
So that's why, but when the bankers lose control, yes, XRP is going to be good for a season, for a while, but ultimately the other coins are going to be the heavy hitters. Why? Because when the bankers go down, so do their money system. What's their money system? The US dollar, all the fiat money, and Tether and all its attachments, because the Tether was created by the bankers to manipulate the price of silver. See, and I'm actually cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin should be $200,000, right? But it's not, because they can create Tether out of thin air to buy up Bitcoin and then dump it, right? But they still can't create and control Bitcoin as much as they can precious metals, because they have what's called derivative contracts, and derivative contracts are what they use, and they use for decades now, to manipulate the price of silver and gold. But you can only make so much Tether. You can only have so much bad news about Bitcoin to keep trying to knock the price down. But that's why still, it's at 20 whatever, 31,000 or something right now. And in November it was at like at 15 or 14,000, right? But the point, and just a few years ago when we met, I think Bitcoin was like $7,000, right? Yeah. And Bitcoin's going to go to 100,000 in a heartbeat. Okay, and that's just a warm up. Ultimately, things are going to go into years forward. It's going to go to $1 million. Hey, Bo and Dick are crazy. No, we're not. When the US dollar loses its status as the world reserve currency, you're going to see honest money become money. Because cryptocurrency or honest ledger, they're going to have a huge move with God's money, but they've manipulated gold and silver forever. And this is the marker. When silver blows vertical, evil lost control. Okay, so we're about to see this moment.
That's a good quote. You got to say that again. Yeah. When silver goes, say that. Tell me that again.
Yeah. So they will do whatever they can to never let silver go up in value, because if silver had value, their money would not. Okay.
When silver goes vertical,
when silver blows vertical, their game is over. When silver blows vertical, they just lost control.
Yeah.
So we're going to see silver damages are sevenfold. So my initial target, silver is going to go threefold in a single day, three and a half fold. So it's going to go to at least $60 to $70. That's half a cycle, because a Daniel cycle is 7. Half of that is 3.5. So in a single day, silver should go from where it is now in the 20s up to about $60 to $70 in a single day. Mm-hmm. That will mark evil's loss of control. That will mark the start of the greatest bull market in human history. That will mark what Marty called the gold shift. That will mark the start of the greatest bull market in human history. The day silver goes triple from 20s into the 60s, 70s in a single day. They're going to slam it down because they can't have that happen. Then comes September, that thing's going to rip like you've never seen before, because it says in the Bible, blessings are 30, 60, 100 fold. So 20 times only the minimum is 30. That's $600 silver. Now, I know other people have quoted that, okay? But I'm just giving you a reason why, because it's in the Bible. Matthew states that blessing, when God's going to bless you, and why would he bless us? Because we've turned from our wicked ways. We're no longer killing the Creator's creation. Yeah. And God's with us. If God is with us, who could be against us? And so he's going to bless those that prepared. So you're saying, what are you doing, Bo? I'm waiting. Because what did it say at the Red Sea? Moses said, stand still and watch the salvation, watch the movement of God, for he will work for us today. So the picture that you drew of people throwing up is because a higher power, God the Father, there's going to be an intervention that we can't explain. Believe it at that. That's going to stop them in their tracks. And then that leads us into the Red Sea event, which is going to be the end of September, which is utter destruction of these people. And then you're going to see, $600 silver, $1,000 silver, $2,000. Why? Because the dollar lost its status as the world reserve currency, and Dick Allgire's vision that he drew out 2 years ago, the dollar crashing, happened. And Babylon, mystery Babylon fell. The evil system got the mortal wound.
When silver goes vertical, evil loses control. We need to print that out and frame it, and put it on the wall. Bo, let's cross-pollinate. Let's tell my people how to get access to your site, and your people how to get access to our site, because I think we use something called consensus analysis in remote viewing.
And also, please explain, and also explain, because I'll put this on my channel to explain also how you do what you do, and give us a little explanation so the viewers can understand how you draw these pictures. Because I'm telling you, I have heard of Dick Allgire several years ago. I've never listened to your stuff. For the past few years, I haven't listened to your stuff, to be honest, because I've been kind of in my own tracks. And Dick's been doing, he's on his railroad tracks, and I'm on my railroad tracks. But together, we come together today, only to come to realize we're seeing the same thing. It just, Dick is, Mr. Allgire is seeing something, and I'm calculating the times. So explain to us, my viewers and your viewers, how you see things and how you do it.
I trained with a member of U.S. Army Special Forces Intelligence, Green Beret. Remote viewing was developed by the U.S. military in the 1970s. And there were several different programs within the U.S. military that were secret from each other. There was one version that was released from the Fort Meade Stargate unit, and it was released to the public to be kind of watered down and do no harm. They don't really teach you how to see things. They never close their eyes. They don't ever look. They get ideas. It works, it functions, but there was a different method developed in secret by the Special Forces guys. And basically what it is that humans have a subconscious awareness that can tap into this greater force, this greater awareness, this greater consciousness field. God, the cosmic consciousness. And so we call it remote viewing. I gained some notoriety using it, and someone approached me and said, you could do this to forecast things and people would, pay to see this. And I went, I don't do it for money and I don't know you. And they convinced me to do it. So we have some really good sources that helped guide humanity. There are very powerful people that have representatives that are throughout society that, believe it or not, guide things and control things. And they're letting us do our thing. So we call it Future Forecasting Group. We do interviews with knowledgeable people. We have a really good analyst. Like you say, you can look at a chart and the chart tells you the story. We have a guy with similar talent, Marty Hibbs. And then we use the remote viewers. We also look at old historical targets that are of interest, but a lot of what we call future forecasting. So you can reach us at futureforecastinggroup.com. That's we have a private website. Bo, what is allowed in public is so controlled. Like you can't tell the truth on social media outlets. So we have to have a private, you buy a membership and then you can get this material. Futureforecastinggroup.com. For our members, and we'll put it on ours, how do people go to your site and get your material?
Website is Gold 2020, the beginning of the end. So Gold 2020 forecast.com, or my YouTube, and you can just put my name in, and all my current videos pop up, which I will be loading this one as well too at some point.
How are you doing on YouTube? Have you been taken down, banned?
You know what? It is a true blessing, but I have been up the entire 3.5 years.
Well, you're such a gentleman and you do it with such class and elegance. That's why.
I had strikes hit me. I've had like Clay Clark and a couple people come on my channel that, mention the C word, this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then I edit out and I just might leave one word sometimes and boom, I got a strike, So I've been dancing, I've been walking carefully. But I for the most part, I calculate time. I talk about timelines. Really, a lot of the things that have happened in the past 3.5 years are not of the evil things that have happened. They're not really of interest to me in terms of the discussion. So they're not like the bullet points that they're really looking for. So it's been a blessing to be on there, for this period of time. And, and I got to thank my audience for, people for listening. And, we had a pretty large amount of views whenever I post a video. We got a lot of views. I've also stick my stuff on Rumble now too, just as backup, and that's been going really well too. But yeah, it's crazy, but it's been a blessing because I've been able to be on there. And again, the point is to just keep the message going. But you got to be careful about things that you do talk about, because it is. I call it Satan's channel, right? It's the evil agenda's channel. It's their channel. It's not ours, right? And so, back to, the financial system has caused all this, but with it, they control the family, the church, the government, education, entertainment, media. Everything's captured. And this is why it's a worldwide syndicate. And at this point in time, there people talk about, different people with different color hats, and these color hats are planning this, and and see,
the white hat.
The thing is, the point I'm trying to illustrate and make is, unless we do have some intervention by a higher power, I call him God, the Father, okay, Jesus Christ, unless there's intervention, these people, they've been on the earth for 6,000 years. They have been on this earth for, let's just leave it at thousands of years. They are all over the globe. You actually stated a few seconds ago that there are people in the world that you are in contact with that have very high positions that control a lot of humanity. You've spoken with some of them, okay? The point is, all of these people, and I got the phone call years ago, hey, you work with us, and anything you want, we'll take care of for you. Yeah. Those phone calls happen.
You stay focused on the big picture, and that's why they let you there. So consensus analysis in remote viewing, that's why I think it's valuable for people to see your material and our material. And we may not agree on everything, right, but we do agree that something big is coming, that this system cannot go on much longer. This is kind of like that people would compare to the Titanic, and now you can compare to that Titan sub that blew up. Like, they took that thing down a couple of times and it worked, but you can't keep doing it. Our economy is like that little submersible. It's at 35,000 feet. It's being run with a game controller, and they're dropping the ballast, but it's still sinking, and it's going to implode. So.
Yeah, and the people, and as much as the point, the most important thing I said earlier is, they can't let the financial system go down, because if it goes down, they built it with the money. So they're going to fight tooth and nail to not let this happen. You got the BRICS nations right now. It's 2 years from when Saudi signed a contract with Russia. Okay, so this is a very important time, because remember, when Nixon took us off the gold standard, 50 years later, remember Leviticus, 50 years to the exact day Kabul fell. Nixon took us off the gold standard August 15th of 71. August 15th of 2021 to the exact day Kabul fell. 9 days later, Saudis signed a military agreement with Russia. But remember, the Saudi-US contract was signed in July of 73, so that when you sell oil, it's only in the dollar, and we give Saudis military protection. Mm-hmm. Well, Saudis reneged on the deal because they saw that we abandoned Kabul, and they're like, wait a second, if you abandon our neighbor, what are you going to do us next? And so therefore they signed a military contract with Russia on the 24th of August 2021, and we're at the 2-year mark. So these biblical things tend to manifest within 2 years of things happening, and that would be this August. And so, and then the petrodollar was signed in July of 73, which is now. The Exodus 12 I talk about, which talks about, the 14th through the 21st of July. So I don't know, except I do know the calculations point to 2 massive events going down. One now, and whatever happens now into August 9th, or say into August, is going to be only a prelude, a teaser of what's going to happen between somewhere in the end of September, from the 14th into the 25th of September. from a biblical calculations. I'm just calculating without knowing what's going to happen. But that's why it's fun to talk to you, because you actually have seen pictures and you've drawn them. And then you cross-correlate that with a few other viewers that you work with, and you come to similar pictures, correct?
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Do you fear distributed ledger blockchain technology, the fact that they will have complete surveillance over our money system, and they're going to tokenize everything? They're going to tokenize you and me. Everything is going to be recorded and monitored full time on the blockchain. Do you have concern about that?
Absolutely not, because let me ask you, who's going to do it? If their financial system just blew up, many of them died, many of them are exposed, they're all fleeing, running for the hills, who's going to do it? You see, but then when the beast system rises in the future, when the mortal wound is healed, then yeah, I'd be concerned about it. But what did Obama do when he last left office? It was the last thing he signed. He turned over the internet to the United Nations. That was his last signature. Why would he do that? Because, see, the beast system is going to rise in the future. So to answer your question, yeah, in the future, that'll be an issue. That'll be a distributed ledger, because the beast will rise again. But they're not going to have any gold and silver. You see, Proverbs 13:20, Proverbs 13:22 states the wealth of the sinner. So the Gateses, the Soroses, the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, they're going to lose all their money. And then they're going to die. That's been prophesied. So they're going to lose it all. So they don't get any gold and silver. So when the beast system rises in the future, Dick, it's digital. So yeah, that'll be an issue. But by that time, yeah, you and I, we've financially, you've bought everything you need. You probably bought some properties up in the mountains somewhere. You've separated yourself. You're fully stable. You're not a part of the system anymore. You could care less. And you've got precious metals. And that's why precious metals are the ultimate money, because who cares less what the financial system does, because you can transact with anybody with precious metals. You don't need a third party. And so the internet will be the problem with the beast system, because you're going to need what's written in the Bible. It's written called the mark on your right hand or the forehead. And so you won't be able to do business without it. Basically, what that means is you won't be able to log into the internet without the mark. Yeah. So you might be worth $1 billion. Fantastic. But you're going to need to log into the beast system to access it. Yeah. So that's why ultimately, just like the dollar started off as a wonderful thing because it had 10% attachment to gold. Yeah. But when Nixon took us off the gold standard, when evil intervened, money became evil. You see, so cryptos are great right now. It's when the beast system rises again. That's when you don't want any attachment to the cryptos, because you might be worth immense amounts of money, but are you willing to sell your soul for it?
Yeah. I look back at when Nixon took us off the gold standard in 71, I just graduated from high school. I was about 17, 18 years old. Little did I know, I didn't know anything back then. I thought I was such a smart young guy, but I had no clue. Well, right. Bo, it's been wonderful talking with you. Tell us again where to find your material, and I'll pitch Gold2020forecast.com, or YouTube, Bo, and then Polny, P-O-L-N like Nancy, Y. And also, please, how do my viewers find you, Dick? futureforecastinggroup.com. And then there's like a $25 membership, and we've just redone we just redid our website, so you can see all our historical materials. So for a $25 membership, you can go have a 1-month binge party and watch all the old material and see if what we were saying didn't come true, and see if it doesn't resonate with you.
All I can tell you is I'm on here with you because I've seen what you do. Okay, I've seen what you do. I've seen your stuff. I try to stay clear. I've listened to other people for the past couple of years. I'm in my own railroad track. Yeah. My tracks, do my own thing. I have seen your track record. I've seen what you've done, Dick. It's incredible. Okay, and so it's fun to talk with you today, because I do remember that picture you drew out. The death of the dollar. You drew that picture 2 years ago, and it was an insane picture that you saw. And then you gave us a couple more pictures you just visually drew out. Yeah. And the future is written. The future exists. We just don't see it yet. but the future's it's coming, and you can't stop it.
It's so interesting that I was moved to reach out and do an interview with you at this time right now, in July of 2023. All right, we will put this out and people can refer back to it. I think it'll be interesting in a few years to go back and listen to this conversation and see how much came true. Bo, always wonderful to talk with you. Thanks.
Thank you for everything you do as well, Dick. God bless you.
Aloha from Hawaii.
Thanks.
Bye.